Hello everybody and welcome back to Mark's Allotment. It's Thursday the 22nd of February 2018 and it's a chilly 38 degrees which I believe is just about 5 degrees, that's sort of Fahrenheit. I think that's about 5 degrees Celsius. Right, so I thought I'd bring a short video, hopefully it's a short video because we don't want these long ones, a short video of storage of vegetables for the winter. Now most of my veg that I've stored has gone now, I've used it all up, but I thought I'd just give you a quick demonstration of how I store my vegetables for the winter, and I'm talking really mainly root veg, carrots, beetroot, potatoes, etc. Now there are various ways of doing it, of course, like anything else. I'm just going to show you how I do it. You know, and you can make up your mind. You can choose this method, or if you see somebody else's method and you think it's better, whatever suits you at the end of the day. Alright. Also, now, with the vegetables, you need to be storing them really at the end of the year. So in other words, what I mean by that is, you don't want to be pulling up carrots early in the year and storing them. You want to use your carrots up as they're growing throughout the summer or the late summer, etc. And then your late or your last sowing of carrots, those are the ones you should then pull up and then store for the winter. Alright. Potatoes, I think they speak for themselves when you dig them out of the ground, when they're ready. Any earlies or second earlies, obviously you should use them up, and only more on those shortly. But then main crop potatoes, those are the ones they usually store. Okay. But again, I'll come back to those shortly. Anyway, so let's start off with carrots. Well, and beetroot actually, because it's the same method anyway that I use. Now, okay, so I hope you can see this. What I have here is a general purpose storage box that you can buy from any shop, really, like Asda's, but in this case I bought this from what we call in the UK a pound shop. Basically, it's, you know, everything is for a pound, or a cheap shop. Japan, if you're living abroad, then maybe you'll have a similar type of shop there. So all I've got is a very simple box, usually with a storage box with comes with a lid, plastic. Okay. Now what I've done is I've lined the bottom with some very dry compost. Okay. Now then, once I've done that, I then place. Okay. Now again, this is only for demonstration purposes, because as I said, I've used up all my stored vegetables now, and I'm having to buy them, unfortunately. So these are shop bought. So, you know, I don't want you to be under any misapprehension of whether these are mine or not, but these are bought carrots. As I say, all I do is I place the carrots on top of the bed, making sure reasonably close, but not too close. Obviously, the closer they are, so you can get more in one layer. And all you do is fill up the space, etc., like that. Alright, I haven't got enough carrots to fill the whole box, so this is, as I say, just a demonstration. Once I've filled one layer with carrots, little tip I would say is to try and keep the carrots the same size. Alright, so, you know, because obviously when you come to retrieve them at a later stage, you may pick up a small carrot and then a big carrot, so try and keep them all the same size, so that, you know, ease of well, for when you're cooking, etc. Then all I do then is get some more dry compost. This is just ordinary potting compost, general purpose, and then again just cover over the carrots like that. Now obviously you've got to imagine that the whole layer is covered. Okay, once that's covered with another layer of dry compost, then place another layer of carrots, compost, etc., until the box is full. Okay. Now then, again, I do this as well with beetroot. So again, any sort of root veg like that. Now, what I would suggest is that when you dig up your roots, make sure you don't have to wash them. In fact, I wouldn't wash them at all, but these are washed, of course. Just get the worst of the mud and soil off them, and make sure they're thoroughly dry. The mud, any dirt or mud on it, make sure the mud or dirt is thoroughly dry before doing this. Alright, then once you fill the box, that's it, really, or the beetroot or carrots or any other root veg. Okay, now then, if you haven't got compost, you can get some sand. Now I have used sand, but again, make sure it's thoroughly dry. You don't want wet sand. Make sure it's thoroughly dry, as I said, and clean, of course, as clean as possible anyway. But what I found with sand is, well, basically it's heavy. It weighs a ton. So once you fill a container up, a container of that with sand is going to weigh a lot. So I did this last year. I experimented with compost, and it still works fine, the same. And I was getting beautiful carrots, really firm, not going soft or anything like that. And so, it worked for me. Alright, so that is that. Now, before some of you say, oh, well, plastic, it sweats and all the rest of it. Yes, I agree that a plastic container is, at the end of the day, you work with what you've got. If this is all you've got, then that's what you use. Otherwise, you'd be spending loads and loads of money on basically storage box, which you're going to use for your root veg. Now then, so if you're going to store them in plastic, I would suggest you leave the top off. Don't put the lid on, because then as these the moisture evaporates out of the veg, they'll come up and form condensation, and then you start getting a potential rotting problem. So I'll leave that lid off. Now, having said that, you need to be sure that you don't have a rodent problem, because if you've got rodents in your garage, or like rats or mice, they will start digging up your root vegetables and start and eat them, of course, because they want to survive the winter like the rest of us. So the other container that you could use, and I have used and it works fine, is a galvanized dustbin. Now, obviously with that, a metal galvanized dustbin means you can put the lid on, and there is enough gap for the moisture to dissipate, etc. So as I say, just make sure that as long as you haven't got a rodent problem, this system works. You can use plastic container like this, as I say, galvanized dustbin. You could use wooden tomato boxes, but with this particular container, it's deep enough that I can get several layers in one go. Alright, and then you could get another one of these on top. Make sure it's not sealing the bottom one, and then just stack them up in your garage or without it, but make sure it's cold outside. Okay, now then, moving on to potatoes. Before I move on to potatoes, if there's any queries, if I've not explained it well enough for you and you want to leave a comment, please by all means do. Anyway, so I'm going to move on to potatoes now. Okay. Okay, now I'm not going to insult your intelligence. As you can see, it's a paper sack. And loose potatoes in this country, usually straight from the farm or wherever, come in sacks like this, loose, and usually covered in soil. Sometimes you get them we get them at the side of the road by sellers, but they're already washed. Now, these particular potatoes are called Charlotte, which is shown there. Charlotte potatoes. They're a second early. Now, normally, I think I'm 100% right in this, but first and second earlies are not good storing potatoes. It's usually the main crop. Having said that, these Charlotte potatoes, we know, as I say, February, have kept since last year up until now, and alright, admittedly they are going a little bit soft, but they're still usable. You know, I can use them for mashed potato, etc., and they're still good for that. And they've stored much better than I expected. Now this was purely by accident because I had so many of them. I put them in the sack and you know, put them in the garage with the rest of the potatoes, and it just so happens that I've had them left over, and yeah, great, they've lasted. They haven't gone much, you know, affected by the frost or anything. So even first, if you've still got some potatoes left over, you know, give it a go. It's always experimenting with a few with leftover. You never know. I might have been lucky with the weather this year. I don't know. So again, so these are second earlies, Charlotte. As I say, they're going a little bit soft now, and I've saved some for seed potatoes for next year. Alright. Okay, so now when you're storing potatoes, you dig them out of the ground. Dig them out of the ground as you would normally, and what you're trying to achieve is to dry them off. No, I'm talking about main crop now actually, but you dry them off so that all the soil on them is dry, and then rub off any excess lumps of soil, you know, as much as you can. Okay, don't wash them. When they're thoroughly dry, the outside surface that is, the skin hardens on them, of course, and then you just store them in paper sacks. Make sure that the potatoes haven't got any slug damage to them, holes in them where slugs have been having to go, because they will be the first ones to start to rot. Now, having said that, of course, I have stored potatoes with slug damage, and they have survived. You know, you just have to cut that little bit of bad potato out. But yeah, now once you've got them bagged up, I keep mine in the garage. As I said, it's an ambient temperature, so whatever temperature it is outside, that's what it is inside, usually. But I stack them on old carpet to keep them off the concrete floor. Then I obviously you seal the bag like that, keep the light out, and then I use an old duvet, or you could use blankets, anything as an insulation material, to wrap around them to keep the frost off. And that's potatoes. And then what I would suggest then, once every, well, there's no set fixed time, but let's say, I'm just going to move the camera up a bit. There we go. So there's no fixed time, but it's whenever you've got the time is basically what it is. So every couple of weeks or so, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, I don't know, get your potatoes, have a spare sack, obviously make sure it's in good condition, and then take your potatoes out of one sack and put them into the other, going through them and taking out any ones that are starting to rot. If you catch them early enough, you'll be alright. Just be aware that the odd one may be starting to rot inside, and if you don't get it out, it'll spread to all the others and it'll make a right old mess and smell and all this. So check them over every 2 or 3 weeks, and you should be fine. And once again, thank you for all the people who subscribed. It does mean a lot to me, actually. You know, I'm making these films, and I do appreciate people watching them. And if you if you feel so inclined, you can watch my flying videos as well. Because I'm going to fly one of these microlights, trying to kill myself, as they say. No, not really, but you know, it's at 61 years of age now. I'm getting my so-called midlife crisis, but it's a bit late. It's a bit late now, I know, but yeah. Okay, anyway, everybody, bye for now. See you all.